What do you need to start a podcast? Let's keep it real simple and then we'll get a little bit more difficult down the line. What you need is something to record into. That can be a phone, that can be a computer, and you need a place to actually put that footage. That can be on YouTube or it can be a podcast host, and then that's it. Now let's talk about the logistics of it. Certain things you can have that would make it a lot easier or make it more palatable for the audience is having a mic. Right, you can get a mic from $39 up to $400, up to you and your budget. You're still gonna need a podcast host. That's the place that has the podcast information, which could be YouTube. It could be what I use, which is Spotify, or any other podcast host that you can look up, and they're usually free. After you have that, you want to think about who's the target audience that you want this podcast going out to. What we would call a niche, or just a range of people who you want this going out to. So let's say my podcast is I teach content and I teach life coaching, and I call it Unstuck. I'm helping people get unstuck from some problem in their head. If it's content or it's life, I'm helping them get unstuck. What you would need next is some topics that you can actually have for your podcast, and I'll put in the show notes some podcast topics that you can have to use. You want a good amount of topics so that you don't run out too fast. I'd say come up with at least 25 topics, and then you can shoot every week. Another thing that may make it easier is batching your recording. Let's say I'm going to be shooting 15-minute episodes. Instead of having to do that every day or every week, maybe I spend one day a month and I shoot about 4 episodes and I spread them out throughout the month. So you got some topics, you got how you want to be consistent. You want to be consistent with posting something at least every week. If you're using YouTube or your podcast host, your listeners have something to come back to all the time. You got your topics. And the last one I would say is if you want to edit or not. A lot of my podcasts, I just sometimes shoot the video and I leave it as is. Yes, you can use editing softwares, which is not bad. Final Cut Pro, CapCut, InShot, Adobe Premiere, whatever you want to use. But I would always suggest, if you think that's going to slow you down completely and make you stop, just go ahead, shoot the podcast episode and upload it. And the last big question I usually get is, should I do a video or audio? It all depends. I say do a video. The reason for that is you can use that video podcast for your YouTube shorts. You can use it for Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, your emails, your online community if you have one. And of course, you can use the video for your audio podcast, which is what people would hear like on an Apple podcast, Spotify podcast. But you can just do audio if you want also. In my beginning, I did just audio, and the cool thing with that is you can do that at any time, anywhere, and you don't have to be dressed or anything. So let me know. Are you going to start a podcast? I would love to follow you. Let me know.